I had been dreading this appointment since I made it. MRI scans were nothing new to me, but not for this. I'd had CT scans of my brain before, but I had been in a near-fatal car accident. That was 20 years ago. Then I was still invincible, and life was less scary. This time, this appointment was far different, and there'd been plenty of time for me to stew on this, always ending in the worst-case scenario results. The pessimist I am. Everything happened so fast leading me here, yet in so many ways my life halted. I'd pulled myself out of my own body watching this as a spectator in my mind because that's what I could handle. My now broken and battling body jerking me back from the stands every time the world began to spin out of control. You ready for this, Mrs. Hyde? The nice woman in the hospital's imaging department greets me with a smile as she had last time. But that was for a completely different test. This not being my first rodeo in the MRI coffin, I painted my "I'm fine" face smile on, nodding as I replied with a joke. Yep, and you? Humor always being my first go-to when I'm nervous or terrified. She giggled in response before handing me the generic gown that tied in the back and my eye cover to prevent the claustrophobic panic if I dared open my eyes once on the inside. The eye covering always shielded me from seeing that needle when they came in to inject the dye during the scans. Rushing to get this over with, I hurriedly changed into the gown, setting my own clothes aside. I recall reaching for the dressing room door, but stopped. I had to do one last-minute check of all my belongings before I could go. My brain's clever way to drag this out and stretch that last nerve I had thin enough to snap. The nice woman that greeted me now had an assistant with her to help me get into the machine while explaining the procedure. I had already heard this from the doctor, but that was clinical, what they were looking for. Her instructions were strictly what they had planned for me for the next 2 hours. Wonderful. Another 2 hours of my life I won't get back, as every other test I've had this month. They provided me headphones as I got settled on that unforgiving slab they send you into that tube on. Sure, the music was semi-comforting, and I did take some of that agony out of having to listen to the whirs and clicks from the inside for so long. Although my brain took that as an uninterrupted time to rehash the events that led me here today. Once I gave the thumbs up, the ladies disappeared behind their wall, testing their microphones so I could hear them when it came time to give further instructions. Also, they needed to warn me before they came in for the dye injection because I have a hatred for needles. Once again, she asked in such a soft, almost remorseful voice, "Are you ready, Mrs. Hyde?" I believe she knew. That kind, petite older woman. Her wisdom saw past my lying smile. Her eyes detected that fear mine were desperately attempting to hide. "Let's roll," I joked to cover the dread in my voice and help suppress my desire to sob. My brain, knowing the procedure, took off, running when the table shifted. Like the starting pistol alerts racers, it's time to sprint. How did I get here? Excellent question. And one I've been asking myself repetitively since I woke up from that nap, knowing that instant my life changed forever. My sacrifice to close my eyes for that hour, because nothing in life comes without some price tag, right? Most people that lose part of a natural sense, such as I had lost my right ear to that nap, they eventually adapt. They accept, grieve, and at some point move forward. My wonderful brain? That wasn't going to be so easy for me. The arguments I had inside those machines, just as internally debated and rationalized at home, was all the same. My emotions displayed in each question: fear, anger, guilt, self-loathing, and simply not knowing how to pick up and go after being knocked down this hard. Why can't I process this and move forward? Come on, suck it up. We have much more life to tackle. I am needed. There is another plan for me. There has to be. Can I fight this? Am I strong enough? I pull my strength from the blessings I'm surrounded by. What do I have left in me that will provide momentum without taking more from those around me? And finally, the question that never was answered. Why me? Why do I pity myself so much when my own father went through this? How dare I think this any worse for me than it was for him? However, I was grown when it happened to him. This was much scarier for me because my baby still had years to go. This was harder for me because he was so much stronger, always. Why didn't my own father tell me what he'd gone through? Maybe because he knew I had always needed him, even when I thought I was grown. My protector, my superhero. You made everything, even this, look too damn easy. That gift basket of emotions wrapped in ugly plastic pain with no bows or ribbons. Just unanswered questions and more pain. Many nights I'd spend fist shaking at the heavens, allowing tears to cascade down my cheeks when no one was watching. Stretching my vocal cords to their limits when no one was near to hear me scream. I'm 36 years old, God. I have a son ready to turn 10 and he needs a whole mom, not what I had become. How could you? Why? Trapped in a body so out of control and foreign, I can't do all that made me mom before to a treasure I named my little warrior. Granted, I would have paid this price for him if I had to, but why grant him to me just to steal me from him later? What a cruelty to a precious boy who never deserved that. And I was taught to believe God is not cruel. Another test of faith I was setting myself up to fail. How am I going to do my part for this family anymore? What is this going to do to not only our son, but what happens to my husband? Here barely stands his bride, a woman he might not know anymore. A creature, frankly, I don't know anymore. How do I learn to lean on others when I was the one to be leaned on? I shouldered the burden for everything I could, deflecting meteors if I had to. It was my hand reaching for others in need, all just to make the world right for everyone. And this life is my reward? That was my place in this world. The protector, the supporter, the superhero. That's who I was. That's all I know. What the hell am I now? The brain of a fighter and the body of... I don't even know anymore. A war waged within me, the soul versus the vessel. A battle I was allowing myself to lose. These thoughts reeled through my head on a constant loop long after that single scan produced no tumors or lesions to explain what then still remained. An invisible, incurable disease. Good news for the doctor reading me the report, but damn it, I wanted real answers. What had changed in me so much that I couldn't accept the absence of cancer, or heaven forbid MS, and possibly worse, as good news? Why was nothing healing me? All the tests, the specialists, the so-called good news, why did none of this provide me comfort or keep my world still? Oh, right, because I still walked out of that office, door physically broken, with no way to fix it. No way for others to see or understand there was something wrong with me. No idea how to pick up and forge ahead because that was what I did. Who I was. Finally receiving my label, my diagnosis, available treatments, and the offer of hope. How am I no better than I was yesterday? How do I stop my brain from breaking me more? Why is this life I had enjoyed and created for my family crumbled? Why did I allow that? I had 6 years to ponder these same questions. And trust me when I say I have. Not so much pondered, more tortured myself, stuffing and compressing me into the deepest, darkest cavities I never realized my mind had. Then one day, I was just gone, lost to the dark space I now inhabited, and not by choice. Or so I told myself. It's amazing the places that darkness can take you when your life is consumed by it. The thoughts, feelings, and dare I say choices you never knew you were yourself capable of. I'm stronger than that. Or am I? It took a different loss about 2 years ago. My brain still absorbed in a life I gave up on. But my body, after all this time, said, grab your boots. It's time to pick up and go now. Something different is coming, and you are ready. Words my brain wasn't ready to hear, but to me that was impossible. To not try. Then again, why bother? Never realizing it, because I wouldn't allow myself to see, I had begun moving forward. My broken body leading, tugging at my brain, dragging me kicking and screaming back into the light, the place I belonged, but beat myself into believing I didn't deserve to be. Hindsight, it's funny that the roles of the mind and the body reversed. My mind shattered to bits, but my vessel was ready to fight. Self-preservation is a fascinating thing. My body telling me, I may be broken, Dawn, but you are not. I disagree because obviously I've been broken in both body and spirit for longer than I would ever admit to another soul. Why admit the truth when I can hide behind a smile and 2 simple words? I'm fine. I let this take that from me. All of it. I allowed it to happen. This part I had a choice in, but could never see it through the thick, dark storm clouds embracing me, squeezing and smothering until I melted, relented. I gave up. I surrendered everything to a disorder that literally rattles me to my knees because that's what my brain does now. Trapped in a tilt-a-whirl set on high speed with no door to run out if I could. My eyes don't work. My body won't remain upright no matter how strong my will is. Then there's the pain of the seizures I can only express with groans of agony and tears. So disgusted, I can't even control my stomach contents. That is, if I can even eat at all. Then came the magical promise of a pill that can help. Some. In trade, I'm forever tethered to that blasted bottle simply to walk from the couch to the bathroom if I could find my feet at all. A bottle filled with hopeful promises, but it still doesn't fix everything. It's not about the loss of hearing. That I got past. That was the only easy part. I can still hear my son's laugh, my husband whisper his love, and the words of encouragement from many. All I ignored because I let the label define me as worthless. I've read the books filled with false hope, crap that didn't fit me at all, and listened when I was finally told truth that this was just going to be it for me. I've done my own research, finding the same information. I studied my own father, who still couldn't break my heart and tell me everything he went through in silence. At the end of the day, I then had to analyze what was left of myself. That was the true test. What was I going to allow forever to mean for me? Seems I'd already decided that. I believe I did the best I could at the time and let my body lead. I tried. Now it was my brain that needed to heal. Surprisingly, my body led me to something. Another piece of me I surrendered long ago, dismissed as worthless, unimportant, and something I had no strength to try again. It was too late. I couldn't use time as my excuse anymore because, from my view on the couch, hours out of every day, time was of no consequence. I had all the time in the world to be this miserable forever. Or get off that couch and use that brain my body is telling me still functions. Shuffling my feet across the cool wood floor towards my desk, perfect for stacking bills until it was time for them to be paid, and that's its only use anymore. Then I caught it in my periphery. But it looked so different this time. Not the same sight as the last time I handled only our household finances. At least I managed that without inconveniencing anyone further. There through a little sliver in those stifling dark clouds was my computer, and an odd stir of hope built deep in my gut. What I had been looking for all along. It was so freeing, empowering, to pick up that tiny laptop and let my fingers roll across that keyboard, inventing people and places or researching things I never knew, and then incorporating this into stories I hadn't considered I was creative enough to articulate. Just another piece of me I dismissed long ago. And I let go. I was beginning to see the pattern. It was easier for me to give up on one thing and I could move on. What I was perfectly capable was not defined the same in that moment. But there had to be something else on the other side. Something was waiting. I wasn't able to see yet. Without even realizing it, I began to heal. This broken shell on unsteady feet led my mind, my spirit, to its salvation. Releasing so many emotions through characters I created in this brain, because it has never been easy for me to expose myself in this way. Admissions, truths, so much easier in another's voice. Easier than dealing with the memories or feelings that are really my own. Call it stubbornness, pride. Either way, showing myself to the world as broken. That was weakness. Something I refused to allow any more than what I'd been forced to accept. Although I had already chosen to be weak when I had some control and chose defeat, finality, not life. I had, in fact, quit. One day I finally looked into those brown eyes in the mirror and accepted what my body was trying to show me, what my mind was trying to shield me from, what I had been lying to myself about all along. I was entirely broken, but I had the choice to not be all along. The idea seemed laughable. I was so battered and beaten, but I saw that flicker of gold in my eyes again. My fire. I was there all the time, trying to shine, but had become so lost. This revelation took me back to that keyboard, pouring out my life story through my characters, because no one wants to hear my real story. It was so much nicer to see what a character, a person made up on a page, could do when presented a challenge. How they fought and persevered in ways I forgot, even through the trivial or silly moments of life. It was easier to let myself feel for them, these fictitious beings, although those tears on that keyboard, those were mine. The laughter at the moments in their lives covering the strain on me from what I allowed to slip by unnoticed. My life and the joy I used to have and still can. I'm not saying I'm cured by any means. Physically, that's just not possible. But my soul, that spirit of that fighter, passed to me from all the warriors before me and with me now. I am the fierce daughter my father showed me I can be when he showed me the way. My plan, you ask? I'm going to keep building this new life. I can't have the old one back, the old me. Why should I dismiss a new me? That answer is simple. I won't. I wanted to give a little update, as this autobiographical piece was written as part of a writing challenge amongst cousins, and the prompt only said, memory that changed you forever. So this was my moment in time, written in 2016. Now in 2022, since this story was penned, my family has been knocked down and kicked around more. My son received a life-changing diagnosis of diabetes at 16. My then husband walked out a little over a month after. And then the pandemic 6 months later. As we all know, every day became a fight to survive, but I was better prepared than ever. And I have been unwilling to stop since I found me through all of that muck. My life was changed forever. Well, now that was 10 years ago with an invisible disorder called Meniere's disease. I've had cancer twice and got lucky with surgeries that saved my life. Life changed again with this story and the fact that I did anything autobiographical at all. Life changed when my son was hospitalized and I nearly lost him. And I'm grateful that was not the case, because I had to show him the way out. His forever was still not set in stone, as my father did for me. Life changed when I had to say goodbye to someone who, in the end, didn't have the same fighting spirit as I had then or now. Of course, there is more to that story not worth any value for me to rehash here. I will say, what has immense value to me today is life. I have a new forever that I lay paving stones for every day and will continue until I have no breaths left. Then look out, world, because I raised a warrior coming up behind me who's even stronger and more prepared than I ever was. Even told me once that he was able to hit the ground running, so to speak, after a stay at the hospital because I showed him to never stop. Huh. As you heard in this story, I saw something completely different. I liked his version better. Appreciated the fact that he watched. Our kids pay attention closer than we'll ever understand. I guess my point is, we all get knocked around by this crazy bitch we call life. Don't let it stop you from dreaming, breathing, being a superhero for another, or even just yourself. Never fucking stop. I promise you, you may not see the value in trying, but someone does. You are loved. You are important. You have a place, purpose, and treasures await us all for persevering. Treasures may be a subjective term, but it's there. That you need to define for yourself.